welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. I've been doing the weekly challenge for Inktober, and for week 3 of Inktober, I decided to take a break from doing scary monsters and to do a picture of a cute vampire cat with some funny bats flying around it. If you want to follow along with traditional materials, I usually use things like Sharpies and Micron Pigma pens and Faber-Castell pens, and you can also use alcohol markers, and you can use watercolor or watercolor ink, or you can use dip pens. It doesn't really matter, just something that's sort of based on ink. And you can use brush pens or really small nib pens. And one of the books that I used was Cartooning Basics by Duane Barnhart, and this helped give me some inspiration for the funny cat that I was doing. And it has some really good pointers in there for cartoon cats, and this one also does. And it's called Cartoonimals by Hamernik, and it has some really neat pointers on how to do funny cats and funny looking animals. And I also used Christopher Hart's Monstrously funny cartoons, and it does all kinds of funny different monsters, and I sort of got the inspiration for the silly bats from this one. And I would definitely recommend getting any of his books. He has a ton out on cartooning. So the program that I'm using is Infinite Painter for Android, and I went ahead and just started out a rough sketch of the cartoon cat. And I'm using the Blackwell pencil in Infinite Painter. And if you're following along traditionally, just use sort of a regular pencil and do your sketch in pencil first, because if you do it in ink, then it's harder to correct. And so here I have a whole bunch of cartoon cats that I found on Pixabay.com, and I just wanted to use those for some inspiration as well. And then I have a couple of rough sketches that I did when I was looking at the Christopher Hart book and the Cartoonimals book and all the different ones that I just wanted some inspiration from. So I kind of made a conglomeration of all the different cats that I was looking at, and I decided on the one in the left hand corner in the top there. I decided that one was the cutest. And so I just went ahead and did it first, and then I did it in Infinite Painter, and then I decided to do another one just to see the variation on it, and it's in the right hand corner, in the lower right hand corner there. But I decided I didn't like that one as well. I thought that this other one was cuter, so I've gone with that design, and I went ahead and imported those back in as references to use in Infinite Painter. And so I'm just kind of working on the cat here, working with pencil. I'm working on the eyes. I want the funny looking eyes there. They're kind of like a Garfield style eye, I suppose. And I wanted the funny little nose there, the upside down triangle nose. And then I thought it'd be really cute to just have the regular cat mouth and then the little fangs sticking out. And so I'm just kind of doing a little bit of a rough sketch here and putting in the funny little tail there. I just thought that would be cute to have the tail kind of sticking out behind, and I just went ahead and sort of worked around the picture, trying to get it refined, and then I went ahead and drew a cute little vampire cape on the cat. I just wanted to show that I could have put wings or something like that, but I just kind of wanted to show the traditional Dracula cape on the cat, because then that instantly reads as a vampire cape. So I went ahead and just kind of did a really simple cape, and then I'll make it red and black in the traditional colors from the original Dracula movie, sort of. And so I'm just sketching that out, and I put it on another layer just in case that I messed up. And I'm just working on the cape a little bit, making it sort of jagged there at the bottom, like kind of like bat wings, but it's still a cape though. It's not actual wings. And so I just kind of wanted that look there, and then I put the little medallion on the front. I think Bela Lugosi is wearing sort of a medallion type thing, and the original Dracula movie, or maybe Christopher Lee is in some of his. There's a whole bunch of different ones. But you just kind of want the traditional vampire look. But I wanted it to be a cute cat instead of a seductive looking person, because everybody does seductive looking vampires, or else they're really ugly monster ones. So I just thought it would be cute to have a change of pace and to do a kitty cat, and to make him kind of silly looking instead of menacing or scary. So I'm just kind of working on the shape of his body and doing the legs, and just kind of refining those a little bit, and just working on his paws a little bit more. And if you're following along traditionally, definitely do this step with pencil, because it's too hard to correct later on. So I'm just working on that, working on his eyes, and then putting a little bit of shadow underneath him, and just to kind of show that he's sitting on the ground and not flying or floating or anything like that. And then you want to go ahead and start to refine the picture. And here I wanted to go ahead and bring it a little bit further down, because I decided, at first I was just going to do the cat, and then I decided, no, I want some bats around the cat too, just to further make it more like Halloween. And so I pulled him down with the transform tool that's in Infinite Painter. And if you're following along traditionally, you can always trace your original drawing, and then put it on a new piece of paper and just bring it down lower on the paper there. And so here I'm starting to do the refining on the cat, and I like to do this on a separate layer, because then I can just go ahead and close and shut off the bottom layer once I'm through. But if you're following along traditionally, you can do this with tracing paper and just trace it onto a fresh sheet of paper, or you can just kind of do the sketch really lightly and then kind of erase it out and refine it. It just depends on what you want to do, how you want to work. The cartoonists usually trace it onto another piece of paper using a light box or something like that. And light boxes are cheap now. You can get them for like $19. So if you wanted to work that way, that's one way that's really easy as well when you're working traditionally. And then here I'm just kind of trying to get the body right, and then I turned the bottom layer back on again, and I'm working some more on the cat's head, and just making the lines cleaner now and not so sketchy looking, and just trying to get them a little bit smoother as well, so that we can do the final painting and the final inking here. And just kind of working on refining the eyes and making them more oval, and just kind of working on the pupils. And of course I do want the pupils to look red towards the end, because that shows that it is vampire or whatever. So I want to go ahead and do that, and just kind of working on the mouth and the fangs a little bit. And then I turn the bottom layer off again so I could see what I'm doing here and see how much inking that I've gotten done. And then I'm gonna work on the eyes a little bit here, and that's why I say do this step in pencil, because you can erase. If you're following along traditionally, do this in pencil. If you're doing this digitally, I guess it doesn't really matter, except that I just kind of like to work in the traditional manner anyway. Instead of hitting the undo button, I kind of like to just erase, because it shows me where the lines are at, instead of just undoing it and then I can't see where it was. So I kind of want a little bit of, a trace of where it was there, so I can just kind of go over it again. And so I just like to work in a traditional manner, even though I'm doing digital here. And I'm just kind of working on refining his eyes and the pupil of his eyes, trying to get them more oval looking, and just rounding them off a little bit, trying to make that look a little bit better there, and working on the edge of them. And they don't have to be perfect. I mean, you can make them look a little mismatched if you want to make him look even sillier, but I thought that I would just kind of try to match them up a little. And then I put in some little bit of some eyelashes or eyebrow type things that cats have right there. And I guess if you wanted to make it look more like a female cat, you could make the eyelashes a little bit bigger even, maybe add a little bit more. But I just put a little bit on the edges here to kind of give it to show the eyebrows that cats have, or the whiskers, or whatever they have on their forehead there. And then I'm just working on the teeth right there. Kind of wanted to get those even looking, so I went ahead and sort of worked on the mouth and tried to get it even there, and just make the teeth look better. And then work a little bit, put a little bit of detail for the cat's ears. And then I went ahead and wanted to do the cape. I was trying to do the cape, but it was on the wrong layer, and I do that a lot. But I finally, I get like the whole thing traced over, and then I realized, oops, I was on the wrong layer. And I do that so many times. It just happens to me all the time, and I should be paying more attention, but I just don't. And so I'll have like the whole thing done, and then I'll realize that was on the wrong layer, and so then you have to go back and redo the whole thing again. But anyway, I went ahead and was tracing over the cape, and then I realized, oops, that's not the right layer, so I better go back and redo it all over again on this other layer, which is kind of a nuisance. But like I said, this happens to me all the time. I don't know if it happens to anybody else. I think it does, because I see occasionally in videos that people do the same thing. But anyway, I finally got it on the right layer, and so I'm just trying to refine the cape a little bit, make it look smoother, and just kind of draw in the lines for it. And then I went ahead and was going to double check and see if I got it right this time, and I did, but there's still things like his tail missing, and part of the leg and things like that I need to go back over again. And of course, if you're tracing this with a light box traditionally, it's a little bit easier to tell that what you've traced and what you haven't gotten traced. But because your pencil lines will be darker, and you can actually see on the tracing paper what you're doing. But anyway, you just have to shut a layer off when you're working digitally like that. So I got a pretty good first drawing there, and so I decided to end this video. And in the next video, in part 2 of the Vampire Cat series, we're going to go ahead and start adding the bats, and maybe add a little bit of some color. So if you want to see that, then hit that subscribe button. And thanks everybody for watching, and thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will catch you later.